Tell us what the measles are, because most people have never seen it.
Many times it's a mild illness. You get this terrible rash and a fever and terrible cold symptoms, and your child is miserable, cough. But in some kids, it can be much, much more severe than that and fatal.
That's a great point. And we do have a guest. Barbara Loe Fisher is here from the National Vaccine Information Center. I want you to give us your opinion. Is this measles outbreak something that you look at and think, well, whoa, we need to be careful here about the message we're sending to moms? Because if they don't vaccinate, we could have a measles outbreak, and it could become an epidemic where, like years ago, 4 million people are getting the measles.
Well, I mean, I have to come from the perspective of a parent who has a vaccine-injured child. I mean, in 1980, I took my bright, healthy, precocious little 2.5-year-old boy in for a 4th DPT shot, and within hours of that shot, I witnessed him suffer a convulsion, a collapse shock, a state of unconsciousness, and he was eventually diagnosed with minimal brain damage, including multiple learning disabilities and attention deficit disorder. With regard to measles, 131 cases of measles out of 300 million people is not an epidemic. We have a 98% vaccination rate.
It's not an epidemic because kids are being vaccinated.
Okay, we have more than tripled the numbers of doses of vaccines we're giving our children in the last quarter century. At the same time, we have seen children become disabled and chronically ill. 1 in 6 child in America is now learning disabled. 1 in 9 has asthma. 1 in 100 to 150 develops autism. 1 in 450 has diabetes. That's the big question. Why are so many highly vaccinated children so sick?
And I appreciate your perspective. I want to talk more with you in just a bit, because we're going to continue this debate.
I totally agree with you. I think vaccines have gotten safer, like you said. You know, even the vaccine that harmed your child, that's been improved, Barbara.
Like any other drug, they carry a risk that's greater for some than others. Informed consent has been the central ethical principle in the practice of modern medicine. Vaccines should be not separated out from the informed consent ethic. And I think it's a human right to be able to decide what you are willing to risk your life for or your child's life for.
I think it's so important. I sit down with parents, if they're being vaccinated or not. Parents want to know. They want to be informed. And they want to know, what are my risks for catching an illness? What are my risks for being harmed by a vaccine?
But, Doctor, we still need to go back to this question, this big question. As we have suppressed so many infectious diseases in childhood, we have seen this corresponding rise in chronic disease and disability. And I think it's a fair question for parents to ask.